people asking about services, recruiting services. Um, that comes in a lot of different forms for a lot of different people. Um, there's a pretty heavy market out there of folks that do that. Um, with us, we have done that before. Um, so I'm not saying that we don't do it, but we are very, very selective with who we work with on those, if that makes sense. Um, because it's a two-way street. It's got to be a team effort. If it's just us, our team of people that are um, putting in, you know, the, all the effort on our side, it won't work. And I understand that's what some people want, and I understand that's even what some people need to do from a time standpoint. But I will be the first to tell you, um, we can't. We have to have we have to have a partner on the other side that is willing to work with us. It's willing to follow our guidance with the things that we need them to do, because it goes hand in hand with what we're doing. This is, when we talk about recruiting, um, recruiting type services, these are they're marketing campaigns, if you will. And there's really no other way to look at it. That's just the way it is. It's a marketing campaign, and the person that's doing the marketing has to be a partner with the person that's being marketed. Whether we're marketing hand soap or we're going to market basketball players. That's the way it is. Maybe that's a sticky, icky feeling that your son is your high school player is being quote unquote marketed, but essentially that's what it comes down to. We talk about email campaigns that we do, that we coach kids through. That's what they are. They're sequential marketing plans, and that's essentially what this comes down to. Um, we, I, like I said, we have helped and done this with several kids. I've done some of them personally, some of them Isaiah and I have done together. Um, and I just, I had a good conversation with a prospective client this morning, and like I told them, we don't take everybody. I've turned more people away than we've taken on as clients, because I won't take on more than what I can proficiently, um, conquer as far as getting the things done that they need done. Like I told him this morning, I'm batting 1,000 on these because I'm very selective on who I take. Now that doesn't mean that everybody ended up with a Division I school. What that means is everybody ended up where I felt like they belonged, from the outset. I'm typically able to identify a kid's ceiling, and if I can't do it, if I don't feel confident that I can do it, I get help. I get help from Division I coaches, Division II coaches, whatever coaches at whatever level, and I get a lot of opinions and I get a lot of feedback on where that particular player belongs. So that's how that works. It's not a lot of um, it's not a lot of glitz and glamour, where you're going to be, um, you know, posted up, and be nationally talked about. It doesn't mean any of that. It simply means I'm going to put you in the position to be at the place where you need to be at the end of your senior year, to have those opportunities to pick a place that you belong at that time. Um, and those places vary. Sometimes those are post grad places. Sometimes those are Division 3 schools. Sometimes they're Division 2. Sometimes they're Division 1. Sometimes they're NAIA. Sometimes it's a walk-on spot at a Division 2 or 3. Um, but my job is to identify the most efficient place that you can get to further your career once you're out of high school. Um, Pricing on that stuff varies quite a bit. Um, we have kind of a standard that we have with the Substack here, the 199 for the year, that we kind of had a set, or not kind of, we have a set amount of things that we include in that. But we can also kind of freelance away from that if somebody wants more, and we can go from there and really kind of custom structure anything. On these types of things, I don't like to pigeonhole everybody into like 3 slots or 4 slots, because everybody's needs are a little bit different. Some kids are very, very good with marketing themselves on social media, but they're not good at doing anything else. Some kids do nothing, other than they don't do much social media. They don't do much, email marketing themselves, and they need help getting that kick started. Every parent, every kid that has came to me with the question if they need services, or should I take, should we pay you to do this, do that? Should we do this with somebody? My question, uh, when I question what they're doing, when they're doing all that, the answers are always different. So, there is no, set plan that applies to everybody. It's something to me that has to be custom built. Um, and that allows me to feel more confident in um, getting everything done on my end, and being something that when we put a plan in place, something that I feel like a goal that can be accomplished, something that's attainable, something that can be done. um, we can't and it has to be something within reason of time on both sides, and expectations have to be reasonable on both sides with the things that are going to happen, and the things that um, are going to happen in the end. So, to answer people's question, yeah, it is something that we do. We don't really advertise it. The folks that have come to us, I've had 2 of them come to me just this week, just in the past 3 days. The one will start immediately. The other, I gave them some guidance and said, I need you to do this for the next 4 months, and then come back to me at the first of the year if you haven't had any difference. So, those folks they're probably both going to listen to this. You'll know who I'm talking about. Um, I'm very transparent when it comes to this kind of stuff. Um, I was in the sales world for 5 years. I understand what kind of questions people are going to have, and what kind of expectations they're going to have. So, you know, most of the stuff that you need, that John Q basketball player needs, you can get out of these videos for free. You can literally get out of these videos for free. You can get from ChatGPT. You can get from Google. You can create your own mailing lists, your own SMP, your own sequential marketing plan. You can do all that. I've talked about all of it. It's all free on here. But I do understand there are folks that want a little more intense and a little more closer working relationship, that they feel more confident doing the things that they need to do. So I understand that, and we welcome that. So parents, if that's something you want, absolutely, you can reach out. We'll talk through it. Probably 3 out of the 4 of you, I'll tell you that you don't that you don't need it. Maybe not that many, but there's just as many that I tell, hey, you don't really need this. Um, and there's so much things that you can do for free, so many things you can do for free that I I just don't, I'm just not going to take somebody's money. But on the contrary, if somebody does need it, and like I said, the maximum amount we're not going to take any more than 5 or 6 at the most at the same time. Number one, we don't have the manpower and the capacity to do that. Um, Time wise and manpower wise, at least not right now. Now, on the other hand, the people that we do have, they will get, they we'll run the gauntlet with them. We'll make sure that they have what they need when they need it, and who they need it with. So, just a lot of things I wanted to clear up there. I've had a lot, the big question is, what all does this include? It's not this, and again, that's not the same for everybody. Some people, some parents that and players, they really want that social media presence, and that's important. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's important. And the players that have worked with me and not worked with me, that have, like, they have a nice, there are guys, you know who they are. You can get online and see who they are. There are guys that have done a excellent job of marketing themselves, primarily on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. They just do a good job. They don't overdo it, but they don't underdo it either. They're consistent, marketing themselves 2-3 times a week with posts, with good quality stuff, not fluff. And, they just do an excellent job. So, everybody needs some of that. Most people, almost everybody, needs the guidance with getting those emails out. And I know people are probably sick and tired of listening to me talk about that. But guys, I had this conversation this morning. The people that have done that, and they have done it fairly closely to what we always prescribe, they have had wild success. And I can't even overstate that. Like, they have had wild success. And if you want to know I'm not going to say it on here, but if you want to know who, where, when, and why that has happened, hit me up and I'll tell you exactly who it is and how it happened. Because you can't, you just cannot not do that and expect good results. You just can't. For most of you who are watching this, parents, players alike, you have to remember where you're from. There's a few of you from Eastern Kentucky. Most of you are from West Virginia. A few of you from Southwest Virginia. There's a few of you from Western Maryland, Southeast PA, or Southwest PA, I should say. Southeast Ohio. You got to understand, these are not areas, these are not hotbed areas that college coaches are looking for kids. And they are areas that are really, really tough to recruit. They are, because the schools are so spread out. There's no real, other than Pittsburgh, there is no real metro area until we get to Pittsburgh or Columbus, Cincinnati, Louisville, or what's the other one I'm missing? Columbus, Pittsburgh, or the DMV. It's a big, big area. It's a huge area. You could say Richmond, but that's included in the DMV for most people. But it's a huge area, and everybody's spread out. There's no big concentration of high-level kids or even college kids. And somebody explained it to me this, and I never really thought about it this way, but they said, if you look at West Virginia, there's X amount of kids that are college players, 50, 60 kids that are, and he said, that's almost half of the school. So he said, the problem is not every school has one, but every other school has one of those kids, and they probably just have one. So you're trying to watch, and it's spread all over West Virginia. And that made a lot of sense from a logistical standpoint, those coaches just have such a hard time zeroing in and finding those guys, and that's a lot of how I've built relationships with coaches, and just kind of steering them in the right direction, to where to find certain kids or where to just find kids in general. So that being said, how that pertains to the services is, that's what when I take on a client or we take on a client, that's my responsibility, is to get you lined up with the right people on the other end, the right level, the the people that I think would be interested, on their end. And sometimes that starts out at one level and it ends up at another. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it ends up down. More times than not, it ends up going up if it goes anywhere. But um, you know, that's part of my job on my end, is to identify the ceiling, that player can get to, and put you in position by the time you're ready to graduate to reach that. So, like I said, that's a two-way street. I can't get in the gym and continue doing the work that the player can, but I can give that guidance to, reaching out, making contact, building your network, and going from there. So, that's really, really all I want to talk about. And again, you're more than welcome, parents, players alike. You're more than welcome to reach out and ask questions if that's something you want. Like I said, we've got a couple slots filled right now. We could probably take another 4 or 5 people if we needed to. And again, this isn't something we push, but it is something, if something reaches out and they really need it, we will consider it. So, I've had, a couple people say that, they wouldn't go anywhere else. They've built a level of trust with me. So we're the only folks that they would want, to work with them. And I understand that's, when you're parting with your money, your hard-earned money, having that level of trust, whether it's, recruiting services or oil changes, or, somebody, doing remodeling in your house, like if you can build a level of trust, it makes it, much more comfortable when you get a part with the money, and having those expectations that, things are going to get done. So, nonetheless, we're almost at 20 minutes here in this video, and that's about twice as long as I wanted to go. But, like I said, if anybody needs anything in that space, let us know. And if we can't help you, we'll find somebody that can. Thank you.